If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend Khalid Muhammad from Command 11 in Pakistan, aka 008. Directly below him, my good friend Randy Nance from back home in Texas, combat wounded Green Beret. And below him, the rumors of Jeff MD's demise were exaggerated. He's back, 007, 26-year CIA operative, our in-house. Well, I've got to be careful what I say. I was going to call you a curmudgeon, but that's not very nice. So we'll come up. You know what? Come up with a name in the live chat. Let's do that. Somebody give Jeff a new name, but it's going to be better than 007. See what we can all come up with. We'll vote on it at the end of the show. All right. So tonight we're going to be discussing the Shadow Wars post 9/11 2.0, which means after complex coordinated terrorist attacks on America. So the theme is going to be hidden conflicts, intelligence agencies, cartels, sleeper cells, all waging covert battles beneath the surface for control of a dystopian America, for lack of a better term. However, before we do that, we're going to hit the conflicted question. If you're not familiar with this, conflictedthegame.com. These are 14 card decks with questions set in a post-apocalyptic scenario. Usually has some element of morality attached to it, hence the name Conflicted. Here we go. One of your friends has been shot in battle, and a field medic told you he will be paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of his life. This is a post-apocalyptic world you are living in, and your friend asks you to please have mercy on him and put him out of his misery. His wife and kids have already died, and all he wants to do is be with them instead of living in a world as unforgiving as this. Would you have mercy on your friend and kill him, or would you let him live? Why? So hang out till the end of today's episode, and we'll share our answers with you. We want to see your answers in the live chat, the comments section down below. Want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at POClink.com. There's a link down below in the comment section, or the description, I should say, as well as on our Substack for today's sit rep. So these radios are a pretty nifty piece to add to your, SHTF comm situation. Basically looks like a little FRS/GMRS radio, which it is, but it also communicates over the LTE network. So right now it's $399 for a pair. As soon as the first 1,000 sell, it's going to $1,140 a pair. You also get global coverage out of this, no extra cost. If you wait until the price goes up, you'll have to pay for a SIM card each year, somewhere between $29 and $65, depending on what you sign up for. But there's a reason I'm mentioning this at the beginning of tonight's broadcast. We have added a Guardians group to the POC Link radios. So you could have multiple groups. Like you could group some of your radios for your family. You could group up a mag. But we've got a Guardians group on this, which is now worldwide. So when an SDN notification goes out to a Guardian, it's going to our Signal channel, it's going to your email, and it's also going to check it out. That's my wife. I'm on air right now, babe. Thank you. Good, perfect timing. I didn't anticipate that. Too funny. Anyway, in that instance, this is a way to get quick messages out to a group immediately, regardless of their physical location. Because it's LTE, if the whole cell network went down, you'd be toast with that communicator unless you're really close. But LTE is very small sliver, and sometimes the juice ain't worth the squeeze. So it's not your primary means of comms, but it's a good backup way, that you should have in your arsenal. On top of which they also relay. I got to share this one. I don't think I shared this with you guys. We were testing on the weekend I had a set of Walker Ear Pros on with a snap-on GMRS radio, and I was able to communicate from that radio to one of these running as a relay, and then it took it out on the regular network over LTE, and I was able to communicate 25 miles away, even though the original radio I'm speaking into didn't have any network coverage. It just relayed off one of those. So pretty slick product. Check it out. We'll move on from there. The first article that I have up for tonight is whistleblower John Casserati calls on Trump to separate Air Marshal Service from TSA. We're not going to dwell on this too long, but Sonia Labasco is a friend of mine. She was fairly high up in the Air Marshals at one point in time. And we have an Obama or Biden, pardon me, well, same difference, appointed individual who has disallowed U.S. Marshals from carrying guns on flights that are for deportation purposes. And she's come out and basically said there's all of this top-heavy bureaucracy in the DHS that's affecting the TSA, or not the TSA, U.S. Marshal Service, the TSA up here. And they're going to have to get it out of there if they expect the U.S. Air Marshals to do their job. So I'll leave it at that. I'll move to the next one here. So this is from Khalid. Hey, ADL, assholes. What standards are you using to declare America first hate speech? Jesus is our savior, hate speech. Antifa, nonviolent. Turning Point USA, extremist hate group. I mean, these guys are as anti-American as it gets, but they're just trying to stir the pot more than anything. Randy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, because I know we've got the First Amendment, but who said last week to us, Randy? Somebody last week said we need a mass extinction of liberals and Democrats. We're not endorsing that. I'm just saying somebody made that comment. But,
apparently we do. But you look at that, right? And it doesn't even pass the common sense test on any of that. So it's kind of like, I guess they're like the truth ministry, right?
Yes.
They're not here to tell the truth.
No.
They're here to push a narrative. And that's what this, I don't know, is this a federal agency? That's what they're doing.
But I think they're a nonprofit, but
are they? That's right. They're an NGO, I think.
Correct.
So regardless, there still are consequences for things that you say, or an organization out like this that is putting that kind of label on another organization or even an individual. What gives them the right to do that? And why can't they be held accountable? Doesn't mean they go to prison, but maybe we take away some of their rights as an NGO or penalize them in some way for spreading fake news or disinformation or just bold-faced lying.
Yeah, I mean, their entire purpose is to sow division. It's as simple as that. It's not really complex at all, but it's disgusting. It's calling those people, treasonous and terrorists and all that kind of stuff is just bullshit. So the next one up is for Jeff here. After the release of British prisoners, international media is highlighting the release of Afghan-American billionaire Amir Amiri as very prominent. Here, one notable point is the Taliban are also demanding the release of their prisoners, including Mohammed Rahim. 13 seconds.
How was your feeling when you knew that you are going to be released? Oh my God, you don't ask. If you ask him like a person beyond the hell, and you say you can go outside to see the world. I'm really happy.
Of course, he's really happy. I mean, Jeff, your thoughts on this clown?
Well, you ask for whatever you want. If you get it, you get it, but you're probably not. As far as Raheem goes, we shouldn't be turning that idiot loose. He was one of Osama bin Laden's right-hand men. He was a driver and bodyguard for Mullah Omar before that. So this guy's got a very long and very well documented history of working with some of the worst people in the world and very close to them. So we shouldn't be turning that idiot loose ever.
So I've got a question for you, Jeff. What strategic value would the Taliban place on getting him released? Because my understanding is that they lobbied for his release as part of some deal that they cut. Why is he of value to them?
He's very prominent. I mean, he's like I say, he was Mullah Omar's driver and bodyguard. He helped bin Laden. Osama bin Laden escape, from the United States, from the NATO forces, but it's, you have your best guy in jail, you want to get him out. It would just be a big morale boost to him and a big, FU to the United States.
Okay, but appreciate the clarification on that. I was wondering if he was some sort of, terrorist subject matter expert or something to that effect that brought value. But anyway, on to the next one here. This is for Khalid. 300 students are being barred from registry for courses at Northwestern University because they refused to take an anti-Semitism course. 35 seconds.
So 300 students are being barred from registering for courses at Northwestern University because they refused to take an anti-Semitism course that was just like pro-Israeli propaganda. But it's so crazy that like you're not going to hear anything about this from the Make America Great Again party, the Trump supporters. Like if you don't pledge allegiance to Israel, you're not going to college. Could you imagine if this was like, if you didn't take like a trans rights course or like a trans sensitivity course or something, you would hear nonstop on Fox News, right? We'd hear about this for months.
Khalid, roll with that one. I think we should take a pool and put some money together and get that poor kid some testosterone, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I'm a Northwestern grad. I mean, I did one of my masters at Northwestern. There was none of this crap back in those days that, anti-Semitism oaths and anti-Semitism courses. But this is something the ADL started, to be completely honest with you. I watched the head of the ADL giving a speech, and he said that right now in the United States, 48% of Americans are anti-Israel. And anti-Israel is what has turned them into forcing anti-Semitism, forcing loyalty oaths, forcing people to now pledge allegiance to Israel. I think Florida is the first state to put the Israeli flag on their license plate. If I'm not wrong, Chris, they've got a license plate coming out now that's got the Israeli flag on it as well. It's the United States of America. You don't need anti-Semitism courses. You don't need to pledge allegiance to another country. And to deny someone admission to a university because they won't take an anti-Semitism course, well, that's not their problem.
Now, is there any recourse that you know of, Khalid, like any legal recourse or otherwise where they could be excused?
Well, they can sue the university because it's discrimination against the student. That's the first recourse they've got is to sue the university. Okay. Unless you can find a history of any kind in social media where they have been Jewish or anti-Israeli, you don't have the right to push them into an anti-Semitism course. It's like back when we were working. The only reason you would take a sensitivity course is if you made a comment against a certain culture.
Fair enough.
Well, and the thing is, they've done this for years with you got to take a course on microaggressions and all that crap. And it is crap. And we've seen it so many times. It's kind of the whole part of the whole DEI infrastructure. And, we complain about it with DEI. Nobody should be forced to take a course like that has absolutely nothing to do with their course of study. I was an engineer. I'm taking engineering courses. I shouldn't have to take a course on, anti-Semitism. I shouldn't have to take a course on, being able, forcing me to acknowledge someone's pronouns or any crap like that. That's one of my biggest complaints about universities is they force people to take crap that has absolutely nothing to do with why they're there. And it's just indoctrination one way or the other. And I don't want to see it on either side.
Well, while we're speaking of, while you're here, there's a pattern evolving from Dano here. Every time you come on screen, he sends us a tip that sends us some money. He sent 556 earlier. He just sent 223. If we keep putting Jeff on stage every minute or so, but Dan will be able to support us for the entire week is my
well,
take.
Maybe if I start talking about Russian weapon systems, he'll put like a 12.3 up there. Or 50 cal. Ooh. That's
right. Let's go with the 50 cal.
No. 150 millimeter. We need the big Hausers. Let's not.
800 millimeter, the big 800 millimeter naval guns.
There you go. Go big or go home, right? So Thank you, Dano. By the way, we greatly appreciate your support. So on to the next one, back to Randy for this one. Al-Qaeda's foreign minister, al-Shabani, the Syrian government protected the Alawites on the coast and stopped the fighting within 48 hours. These were not battles. They were massacres. They did not stop within 48 hours. They went on for 72 hours. The 3-day massacres in March and the killing and kidnappings have continued ever since the fall of the regime. The Alawites were not protected. The most horrific massacres in modern history were carried out against them. The fighting was not stopped. It was only forced to end because of international pressure and public opinion. This is not a Syrian government. It is the government of a terrorist group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, along with Hind Kabbat and Yarab Badar. Man, that's a mouthful. Say that 3 times fast. But
Yarab Badar.
yeah, there you go. So I question for you, Randy, since this one's for you. I mean, I don't recall Assad being a great guy, but I don't think his government was anywhere near as bad as Jelani's has turned out to be so far.
Well, I will agree with you on it. It looks like Jelani's hit the ground running and just picking up where Assad kind of maybe skirted a little bit with, because remember, at some point during Obama's admin, he used the chemical warfare. He dumped some chemicals on the folks, which I always said probably came straight from Iraq. And if we could test that stuff, it probably was built right here in the United States of America. Right. You know, as people have always said, there was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. There wasn't. There was not any. He never had any nukes, but he had plenty of chemical and biological because we gave it to him in the 80s when he was fighting Iran. That's how we knew for certain he had it. So this lie they've been going with all along is just a bunch of crap like everything else. But Assad did use that, and I will bet, and it wasn't, within a year or two, maybe a little bit longer than that, after, they pulled it out of Iraq and right into Syria. That's where they brought all that stuff. So we never found it, but, it ended up in Syria. And, as Khalid's mentioned many times, Jelani is not a good guy. Yeah. Not a good guy. I think there's a picture of her out there with him holding 2 heads, right?
There is. There's actually multiple pictures like that.
And, to put somebody like that in the position to govern or lead a nation, any nation, is absolutely ridiculous. You would only do that for nefarious reasons. So whoever put him in charge, they put him in charge to do exactly what he's doing.
Agreed. Yeah, couldn't agree more. So, Jeff, go ahead, please.
There. Assad was actually someone who protected the Christians. He protected the Alawites. He protected the Druze. That when you removed Assad, you let the Bedouins and the terror groups take over Assyria, and they have done nothing more than massacre people. Just last night, night before last, there was another massacre of Alawites. While he was in the U.S., they set fire to Christian villages. So, I mean, they're not stopping. And when they asked Jelani about it a couple months back, Jelani said, well, for the next 2 or 3 years, I can't really stop it. How are you the president of the country? How are you the president of the country when you say you can't stop it?
Yeah, that's what a mess. Just a total affront, to be quite honest with you. So next one's from Clede's friend John Rosamondo, who was on with him Friday night, Newsmax correspondent. Qatar is the greatest funder of global Islamic terrorism. 55-second video, and then coming to you, Jeff.
These are not people that even on their best day negotiate in good faith or have any intention of doing something that is moral. They just are incapable of that.
Right, but is deliberately targeting the negotiators on the Hamas side with a view to killing them as they're considering a proposal, is that acting in good faith? I mean, surely that is not acting in good faith. And America, of all countries in the world, given it happened in the country that is one of their allies, their big, you could argue their biggest ally, given the presence of so many American military there. Surely America must have been, you said you had no forward knowledge. Okay. But once you knew what they'd done, surely the United States, somebody somewhere, you or Donald Trump or somebody would have got on the phone to Netanyahu and said, what the hell are you playing at?
These are not people that...
So, Jeff, I don't know if you're going to answer this or not, but why are we continuing to work with Qatar diplomatically speaking instead of strong arming them?
Well, Qatar is kind of the bridge between the extreme Islamic extremist world and the Western world. And if you're going, unless you're just going to go in and wipe everybody out, you need to be able to talk to people, and you got to have someone willing to, that will be an intermediary. And, you know, we did it during, it's happened in almost every war. There's always the back channel. If you're going to talk to people, you can't negotiate with somebody unless you talk to them. And that's one thing Trump has said. He's absolutely right. But as far as Israel taking out the Hamas leadership in Qatar, you know, in a way, it makes a lot of sense, because if they did not want to negotiate a peace, let's just say Israel says, we want to have peace. They said, no, we don't. Okay, well, let's just kill the guys who want to keep the war going. And then whoever will just do that until they're finally replaced by somebody who's willing to talk. It happened in Japan at the end of World War II. There was a group within the Japanese army that wanted the war to continue. And their plot was to kidnap Hirohito, and they they assassinated some of the people who were saying, "Okay, dudes, we've lost this war. We need to negotiate so that we can save something of our country." And they wanted to kill them off, but they ended up trying to do a little bit of a coup, and it didn't work. If it had worked, the war would have gone on, and millions of more people would have died. So, getting rid of the hardliners to make room for people you can deal with is not unprecedented at all.
I appreciate the insight there. So the last one for the sit rep before we get into the main topic of the night is for Khalid here. So this is the point I've been making for a long time. SWAT units, while very good at their mission set, is unprepared to conduct counterterrorism operations. That's not what they're designed to do. No. Countering the upcoming Homeland plot is going to be extremely problematic without the appropriate expertise, and that doesn't exist at scale. And he was nice to include a screenshot from one of our podcasts. But Khalid, first and foremost, stupid question.
Yeah.
What are the differences in capabilities as far as, say, Delta team is versus those SWAT teams when it comes to clearing buildings?
Oh, are you kidding? Are you kidding? SWAT team is like having the peewees, and Delta is varsity. I mean, that's like professional football. They're the best of the best. And the SWAT teams, while they're fantastic at what they do, they're not at that level to be able to work against terrorists. And Wes is the guy who posted the guys whose posts we're covering. Wes Harden is a good friend. He is dead on with this. The SWAT teams in the U.S. are not ready for the attack that's coming. And it's not just the attack that's coming for the SWAT teams, but the police force isn't ready as well. Because when you look at what's coming, swarm attacks, coordinated attacks, you're not even training for this. Sarah's been talking about this a lot lately, where she said, you know, when you start doing active shooter training, you need to start doing it with 2 or 3 shooters in different locations and see how you respond. Because if you're not responding with 2 or 3 different shooters in 2 or 3 different places, you're not going to be ready for these swarm attacks that come. And SWAT teams they're great at you know, hostage rescue. But if it comes down to clearing a building with terrorists inside that are well trained, they're going to get slaughtered.
Yeah, and I know the answer to that. I asked you that so you could share it with our audience, because not everybody's clear on it. But now Dano stepped it up with the 7.62. I have to assume because you're in Pakistan, he's talking 7.62 by you know, 7.62 by 39, but AK rounds. I don't know. Maybe he's being generous and thinking 7.62 by 54. But either way,
he was stepping up to the big leagues. That's a guess. But you know, I would say Khalid's on point there, because really Delta Force, they're the operator's course is classified. They won't even tell you what's all in it, right? No one will. And it's because they are trained to be actual commandos, like the full spectrum. And there's a lot to that, where SWAT is a police force trained for a very linear mission in, you know, getting people out of houses that are being held captive or taking out dangerous criminals on those arrests. Completely different set of circumstances.
Yeah, Randy stole my thunder. I was going to say SWAT or police designed to solve one problem, one situation. Delta, like SEALs and any of the spec op guys, are they are built for continuous battle. It's not over tonight. It keeps going. And that's what the police are not trained, set up
At all.
for. It's
At
go
all.
in, do it, get out.
Yeah, well said, Jeff. And so our good friend Mike Glover, he was dealt a team towards the end of his tenure, and you introduced Jeff Teagues to me last week, who we'll be talking to in a couple days. Jeff is a legend.
Yeah, buddy.
Commander
Yeah, he
of
is. Yep.
Yeah, five Bronze Stars and a Silver Star.
Straight up legend.
Lieutenant. Yeah, he was a lieutenant colonel when he retired and was a Delta team commander. And Mike Glover went on missions with him. So pretty interesting connection. Yeah, and we'll have him on the podcast here soon enough. But that's the daily update as far as the SITREP situation report is concerned. So now we're going to get into the main topic tonight. And we've been trying to communicate that the reason we call this a long war is because unlike 9/11 1.0, 9/11 2.0 changes America and the world for the worse forever, essentially. And there will be ongoing conflict after the initial dust settles. Already the activity is being ramped up. A day doesn't go by where there's not an active shooter, a bomb threat, whatever, something heinous going on. And that's just going to continue to get amplified more and more. So what happens in, this dystopian future is that there will be an unseen battle between intelligence agencies, drug cartels, FTOs, sleeper cells, rogue factions, because they'll all be battling for control and money, because it'll kind of be like the Wild Wild West again, just different. But at the end of the day, the complex coordinated terrorist attacks will kick this off and will radically reshape the landscape, the threat landscape in particular. And there will be both stuff that's very obviously warfare and stuff that's not so obviously warfare as they fight over what's left of our country. So with that being said, segment number 1 is the nature of complex coordinated terrorist attacks. Khalid, I'm going to come to you to explain complex coordinated terrorist attacks. We've done it before, but we're doing it for a very specific reason. Khalid and I put together 144 episodes. This is episode 31, if memory serves me right. No, wait a minute.
Nope.
32, 33, 34, somewhere in that range.
34.
When we did it, we purposely made each episode to stand on its own. So we have to take a couple minutes here and there to make sure people who didn't see other episodes will get it on this one. So Khalid, I want to just lean on you this time to explain complex coordinated terrorist attacks to our audience, because we do have new people.
All right, so look at it this way. You've got a city like Madison, Wisconsin. No, let's not go to Madison. Let's go to Portland, Oregon. You've got a city like Portland, Oregon. You have 5, 6, 7 teams of 7 or 8 attackers that start to distribute throughout the city. They start to hit schools. They start to hit churches. They start to hit shopping complexes. They start to hit office complexes. And as they're moving along, they're leaving 1 or 2 guys behind. Your question is, what are the 1 or 2 guys left behind for? For your first responders. When your first responder shows up, they detonate themselves. So they take out extra people. They move on, they move on, they move on, and they end up at your hospital. They take complete control of your hospital. At the same time, you've got vehicle-borne attacks that are IEDs that are taking out your first responders as well. You've got vehicle-borne attacks that are carried out at the hospital to block off entry and exit points. You are talking about a siege situation. And to understand a siege situation, you have to look at it from the point of view of there is no way in and there is no way out. Anybody inside that building is stuck. And that is what the terrorists want. Once you are stuck, then the torture starts. Cutting off of hands, cutting off of heads, beatings, bloodlettings, just absolute violence to a level that you have never seen before. When I talk about a terror attack at this level, there's never been a movie that even comes to the level of graphic violence that you'll see when these complex coordinated attacks start. The problem that we have in the US is that this has never happened on US soil. Countries in the Middle East have seen it. Our police, our special forces, we're used to it. We know how to handle it. And all of us are packing. I mean, even when I go out to the market, I've got a weapon on me. I've got a detail with me that have automatic weapons with them. If something happens, we're ready. In the US, you don't have that mentality yet. I mean, everyone has a weapon, but taking someone's life, that's a very difficult thing to do. And it sounds really easy. Yeah, I'll do it. No big deal. I mean, if it means to save this and do that. Once you have to place that bullet into somebody, it's not that easy. You think about cops, you think about military soldiers, you talk about military officers that have done this, Delta, SEALs. They've done it so often that they understand the pain and the mental anguish they go through taking a human life. That is not something that's easy to do. And you have to understand that these terrorists, their intention is to die. They don't care. So if they die, it doesn't matter to them. It's you that matters. The point of us doing this entire series, going step by step, step by step, step by step, and explaining each thing to you is because we want you to be prepared. The people coming to attack you are ready to die, blow themselves up, get shot by the police, by deltas, get shot by soldiers that get deployed in martial law. They're ready for that. It's you we're worried about.
No, I appreciate that, Clayton. Before we move on to Randy here's a number for the new people in our audience. 70% of Floridians who were killed by gunshot wound last year that didn't commit suicide were shot with their own weapon. So they pulled a gun when they were in a bad situation. The bad guy disarmed them, took the gun away from them, and killed them because they went into condition black.
Yep.
So it's a serious thing for sure. So, Randy, I want to stay on this theme for at least a couple more questions. What distinguishes a complex coordinated terrorist attack from, say, single site attacks like Oklahoma City with Timothy McVeigh or the Pulse nightclub with a shooter? What are the big differences between the two styles of attacks?
Let me hang on. I've got some notes here. I will say, what I think is we say America hasn't seen it. I'm gonna go on a limb and say the world has not seen an attack like this since World War II. I know we had some stuff in Vietnam, but I don't know that we had any kind of complex coordinated attacks like actually happened during World War II. Certainly in Europe and then all the way into Germany. That's what we're looking at here. So if this actually happens and they're even 50% successful, it's going to be stuff that this world hasn't seen in quite some time.
Randy, hold that thought just for a second. Jeff, I need you to refresh our memory here. When we were talking about 2008, Mumbai being an example of a CCTA, and Paris, November 2015, both you and Khalid mentioned incidents prior to that in other countries where there had been CCTAs, maybe not quite as robust. Do you recall what they were? And if not, Khalid, do you recall? You're on mute, Jeff.
I was thinking there was the Beslan attack.
Yep.
Where they basically took a large area, held it, and then just went to town. Then, of course, the Russians responded with brutal force, but a lot of people got killed on that one. And they specifically targeted children. They took a school and just to increase the horror of it all.
Unbelievable. Khalid, is there anything else before I bounce back to Randy here?
2003, Karachi, you attacked the U.S. Embassy at the same time you attacked the Marriott Hotel. In 2000, and I think it was 16, you attacked the Army Public School. 157 children were slaughtered, 348 people injured. We had special forces go in within half an hour. It still took us 4 hours to get control of the school back.
Wow. I appreciate adding to that. Sorry, Randy, I couldn't remember all those instances. Just wanted
No, that's fine. But I want to point out too, like I said, all those were single point, or they might have had multiple deals, but it was only one city. We're not talking about 10 or 15 different actual targets at the same time in multiple cities and multiple locations.
Yeah.
We have not seen that since World War II. That I can promise you. We didn't even do that in the Middle East when we were there. We had some attacks, but they weren't anything quite like this. So the difference. So I looked this up so I could put some good information out here. about what distinguishes a complex, coordinated terrorist attack from the earlier single site attacks like Oklahoma City or the Pulse nightclub. And the key differences between them are, one, you're going to have multiple simultaneous and sequence targets. Complex attacks hit several locations nearly simultaneously or in a rapid sequence to maximize casualties, chaos, media impact, where a single site attacks focus on violence in one place, which is kind of what we just touched on. So then it also distributes operational cells and roles, right? They'll have coordinated attacks using separate teams, surveillance, logistics, shooters, bombers, drivers, communications, and facilitators, which Khalid spoke to every bit of this in their plan. Operating in parallel, single actor attacks concentrate planning and execution on one person or small unit or one locale.
How do they stay coordinated, Randy?
Well,
what keeps them in sync?
Well, it's like any other thing. They're going to have some sort of timing, right? They're going to have some communication.
Okay.
They're going to pick a certain date and time that will all start. But I imagine there will be some communication during the attacks as well to keep things moving on whatever timeline that they want it to. That would be my guess.
I got a question. I know that I got to send this one to Khalid, then I'm coming right back to you. Khalid,
Yep.
In Mumbai 2008,
Yeah.
there were handlers, for lack of a better term, in Afghanistan that were watching the news in India, watching social media, and they helped to kind of direct those guys in Mumbai.
They weren't in Afghanistan. They were in Pakistan.
Pakistan, sorry. Okay. So
The handlers were in
is that what we can expect again, though? Is that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because look, what's going to happen is as these attacks are rolling forward, you're going to have people that are both on the ground in the U.S. coordinating, and you're going to have people in abroad that are coordinating, because this is not just the U.S. attack. The attack will happen in the U.S. and Europe. So you're going to have people watching both locations and saying, okay, do this, hit this target. The police are here, go this way, do this, send a vehicle, a VBIED at this location and detonate it there because there's so many police jammed up there. For example, let's look at yesterday with the LDS church attack. The amount of police that were sitting on the road in Burton, Michigan, outside that guy's house. One suicide bomber, and you've taken out the entire bomb squad.
Right. Yeah. Good point. So, Randy, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just wanted to get clarification on the handlers doing their thing.
No, but I got 10 points here, so you might want to wait.
Let her rip.
We can do that afterwards because some of this might help answer some.
All
of that.
good. Let her rip.
The third is a higher logistical complexity. They require more resources, weapons across sites, synchronized transport, safe houses, multiple communication channels, secure financing, and contingency plans where single site attacks need fewer moving parts. So then when it comes to synchronization and timing, so precise timing, synchronized watch, remote triggers, or communications is used to overwhelm responders and create confusion. Single site attacks don't require such inter-site coordination. 5 is enhanced command and control in tradecraft. Complex operations use encrypted comms, compartmentation and rehearsals, and operational security to avoid detection. Lone actors often leave more forensic and behavioral traces, which is absolutely true. 6, the exploitation of infrastructure and cascading effects. Attacks may target critical infrastructure, transit hubs, power bridges, and exploit failures to cascade disruption across regions. Single-site attacks primarily cause localized harm. 7, greater challenges for detection and prevention. Multiple moving parts and decentralized cells increase intelligence and law enforcement blind spots. Indicators are dispersed across jurisdictions, complicating information fusion. Single-site plots can sometimes be foiled by detecting lone behavioral indicators. 8, then we got psychological and political objectives. Coordinated attacks amplify fear, which we've talked about multiple times, suggest organizational sophistication and can be framed as broader campaigns. Examples to demonstrate sustained capability, whereas single-site attacks often reflect individual grievance or a simpler tactical aim. Number 9 is the use of diversion or secondary attacks, and we know this is going to happen. Complex attacks may include diversions, secondary explosions, or timed assaults to target first responders. Single-site attacks rarely incorporate such multiple phase tactics. 10, attribution and responsibility ambiguity. Networks can obscure command links, use proxies, or claim attacks opportunistically, complicating attribution. Lone attacks often point directly to an individual, perpetrator, or local network. So all that means implications for response and prevention requires interagency and international intelligence sharing, multi-jurisdictional investigation, preemptive disruption of logistics, funding, monitoring of facilities, robust public safety plans, and rapid medical surge capacity, which and also emphasizes community reporting, counter-radicalization, and resilience planning alongside traditional law enforcement and military measures. Those last two are kind of implications for response and prevention. And that's what I got on that.
No, fair enough. Appreciate that. So, Jeff, coming to you next on this. Where do the cartels fit into this? Because it was in the early 1990s that we discovered that Hezbollah in particular was working with the cartels, because Hezbollah outside of the Middle East. So in the Middle East, just for our audience, Hezbollah is founded and funded by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, but the rest of the world's called Unit 910. It's not one unit. It's just everybody who's not in the Middle East. That Unit 910 started working with the cartels because they needed to fund themselves, needed to make money. How do they fit into things currently, 30 years later?
I think the main thing with the cartels is going to be logistics and moving of funds. You don't see cartel guys blowing themselves up. They're not suicidal. They're not doing it for religious reasons. They're not trying to get to heaven. But they're trying to make a buck. And if you want something in the country, they'll get it here. It just depends on how much you're willing to pay them. Now, getting back to what we talked about previously, I want to make a quick comment on that. On the CCTAs, the complex ones, we've already seen that, folks. That was 9/11. You had 4 different teams working out, hitting 4 different targets independently. Granted, 2 of them were the World Trade Center, but each tower was a separate team. Then they hit the Pentagon. And the thing about an op like that is once you set it in motion, one aspect is not contingent upon the success of another. The Flight 93 that went down in Pennsylvania was supposed to hit either the White House or hit CIA headquarters. I was 100% sure. It was a failure because of the people on board, but it didn't stop the other 3, and it didn't minimize the impact. So that was a CCTA. We experienced it, and we saw what worked. We saw what didn't work, but overall, it didn't require the success of everyone. And once you put it in motion, they didn't require anything else. And the kinds of attacks that Khalid's talking about could be the same thing. All they have to do is they just need a go signal. And their instructions may be, they're going to do this, you wait 24 hours, and then you do B, and then another group, you wait 24 more hours, and you do C. And if you do it in multiple cities, if it fails in Albuquerque, that doesn't mean it's not going to be successful in Buffalo, because they're not dependent on each other. They're independent attacks.
I appreciate that clarification very much. So, Khalid, last question to you in segment 1 is, what pieces of technology today make modern CCTAs harder to detect and disrupt, as if let's say they tried to do this in the 1990s to today? What are they leveraging to pull this off?
Well, the sheer amount of surveillance cameras you have around so many cities and so many homes right now, and so many buildings right now, that gives them a huge advantage you didn't have back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Because when you've got technology at play, when you can hack a camera, you can watch without even going. And one method of counterintelligence or intelligence is using those cameras to do your surveillance. Number 2, the fact that you now can the encrypted radios that the U.S. military left behind in Afghanistan. That was a huge advantage handed over to them that was not available to any attacker before. Jeff's right on the CCTs that 9/11 1.0 was, but that was all airplanes. We are talking assault teams.
And it was one day, one event. It wasn't a multi-pronged.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking, for example, like day one, you do 5 cities. On day two, you do another 5 cities. On day three, you do another 5 cities. You have collapsed the U.S. I mean, you're not going to know where it's going to hit, when it's going to hit, and how it's going to hit, because the level is going to keep increasing. Because once you've taken 5 hospitals, all the attention shifts to those 5 hospitals. The next day you do it again, and you take 5 more hospitals. The next day you do it again, you take 5 more hospitals. And at the same time, planes are hijacked, and people and suicide bombers blow those planes up over cities. This is something that this has not been seen in any country in the world. I mean, the Crocus City attack in Russia was very close. It was very close to what we're talking about right now, but it didn't get to the level that what they planned for the U.S. And again, I'm going to repeat this. This is a retribution attack. This is a payback. And that's what you've got to keep in mind when you're talking about these attacks. They're paying the U.S. and Europe back for everything that was done in Afghanistan and in Iraq. So targeting military communities, targeting veteran communities, targeting small cities, they're trying to bring the war that you brought to their countries to your country.
Thanks, Khalid. Appreciate that as well. So that's the end of segment one. We're moving into segment two now. And segment two is on intelligence agencies in particular, and what we're calling the invisible front line, which is actually fifth generation warfare, asymmetrical warfare, whatever you want to call it, where it's very hard to define where's the front line of this battle, because it's a complex set of circumstances. I mean, you could argue we're in a fifth generation warfare right now with enemies hacking our networks and all of those sort of things. But basically, what we're getting at is there's battles that are covert in this stage that you may not see and therefore may not know about. So intelligence agencies at that point kind of have a dual role to prevent attacks while waging these secret wars, for lack of a better term, which also includes operations in foreign countries, especially countries like Qatar that are, funding this stuff, or quite possibly Iran as well. And at the end of the day, I would say like the one thing about the intelligence agencies is they will find a way to have plausible deniability. I'll let Jeff speak to that in a minute. I get it. You can smell when I'm stepping in here. So the problem is that they're and I'd love to hear Jeff's thoughts on this, by the way, of blowback when covert operations fail and or become public knowledge. And so examples of this sort of stuff, it's already happening. What we're doing in Mexico with the cartels. We've had boots on the ground for a long time. We have more boots on the ground now, waging, this asymmetrical, irregular warfare, whatever you want to call it, those sort of things. So, Jeff, I had a question for you, but I think I want to pivot first as far as the intelligence agencies having an operation go awry and people finding out about it. Can you speak to anything like that? It doesn't have to be from your background at the CIA. I just mean in general.
It happens all the time. Covert operations are covert until they're not.
Right.
Look at the Bay of Pigs. Okay, we went in there, trained up all these people in Mexico and Latin America to go overthrow the communists in Cuba. We had no air support, blew up in our faces. Really embarrassing for Kennedy. And that is when Alan Dulles got fired as director of CIA, and that was the direct result of that. We've had it with, any number of Augusto Pinochet in Chile. We did it in Vietnam. President Diem was seen as uncooperative. General Min overthrew him in a coup. We knew about it ahead of time. He wasn't supposed to kill President Diem, but he did. And that's when Johnson made his famous "I don't want to hear about any more coup shit" comment about in Vietnam. Then it happened in South America when Hassan Fuss was that contractor, his plane got shot down, in Nicaragua. And then, of course, boom, no more deniability because they got the guy. Francis Gary Powers. A lot of those guys were issued suicide pills. The idea was that they would, they kill themselves and there'd be no. Well, he got captured, and the Russians tried him out on TV. Those overflights were no longer covert at that point. So they always go south. Eventually, it's just do they find out so much later down the road that it doesn't matter.
Thanks, Randy. So, Randy, coming to you next on this is what are the risks when covert operations cross borders without oversight? And I'm thinking like from a black ops perspective.
Let me see here.
Randy's been going to school every day now.
Yeah, well, I had to
School of Survival Dispatch.
Yes. Well, I went through all the questions you gave us, and I did take some notes, and I used a little AI, and it turned out to be 30 freaking pages. So obviously I knew we weren't going to read all that stuff.
Right.
Give me a second here.
No problem. Actually, while you're looking that up, Jeff, the original question I had for you was how do intelligence agencies adapt to hybrid threats that mix terrorism, crime, and cyber warfare, or is that something you can't comment on? If so, that's fine.
Well, no, we can. And we've done it in the past with narcotics, counterintelligence, counterterrorism. You have to create what it is. They created centers because there's different stakeholders, there's different people that are looking at different things, and for the most part, they're stovepipe and they don't talk to each other. Okay. So what you have to do is get all the people in the same room where they can say, "Hey, we've got this. We saw this and on a cyber thing, and someone on the terrorist side. Whoa, wait a minute. We saw something like that over here too." But if the cyber people won't or are not allowed to talk to the counterintelligence people or talk to the counterterrorist people or talk to the counter narcotics people, you can't sew those pieces of fabric together into a quilt. So there has to be coordination. And most bureaucracies don't like that. Everybody they have their own little rice bowl. They don't want it broken. They don't want anybody else eating from it. So it's just human nature. You want to be in charge, so you keep everybody out. And you see with the FBI, local cops don't like to work with the FBI because the FBI comes in and goes, "Okay, we're in charge now." And they're like, "Yeah, you're just going to take our hard work, you're going to claim it and walk away, and you're going to get the accolades. We're not going to get SWAT." And it does happen.
The feds would never do such a thing. The feds would never do that.
Never.
No.
Shame on you for saying that.
I hated the FBI because the FBI were condescending to the ICE guys.
Didn't the FBI just do this in Charlie Kirk's assassination and said, we put his picture out and that's what solved the case? It had nothing to do with the father telling the kid, you have to go confess. The FBI did it by putting the picture out of Tyler Robinson.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you saw it in the perfect example of it was in the movie Die Hard. When the feds come in, they go, "Yeah, we'll take it. We're taking over your operation. When we commandeer your men, we'll try to let you know."
Yeah, crazy stuff. Okay, Randy, back to you as far as risks for covert ops.
Yeah, now remember when I looked this up, I was glad I did because I knew some of this, but by no means did I realize all of this. It's not what you think about, I suppose. Anyway, so what says the key risk when covert operations cross borders without proper oversight? The number one is legal violations and unlawful conduct, because operations may breach domestic laws, foreign sovereignty, international law, and treaty obligations, exposing agencies and states to litigation, sanctions, or criminal liability. Diplomatic fallout and destabilization. Covert actions can trigger diplomatic crisis, retaliation, expulsions of diplomats, rupture of alliances, and wider regional instability. And there's blowback and escalation, unintended consequences, civilian casualties, strengthened adversity recruitment, or empowering extremist groups can produce long-term security setbacks and retaliatory attacks. Intelligence compromise and loss of assets. Poorly overseen cross-border ops risk exposing sources, methods, and networks. Captured assets may be turned, revealing further operations and endangered personnel. Erosion of the rule of law and democratic norms. Bypassing oversight undermines legal accountability, weakens checks and balances, and normalizes extra-legal practices that can be abused politically. human rights abuses, and moral cost. Lack of oversight increases the likelihood of torture, unlawful detention, rendition, or targeting errors that harm civilians and damage legitimacy. There's also operational failure and mission creep. Without clear mandates and accountability, missions can drift beyond objectives, waste resources, and produce incoherent or counterproductive outcomes. Intelligent degradation and confirmation bias. Inadequate review encourages selective use of intelligence to justify actions, reducing analytical rigor and increasing error rates. So then there's domestic, political, and public trust damage. Revelations of unapproved foreign covert activity can provoke domestic scandals, loss of public trust, and restrictions on future intelligence work. Then there's legal and financial exposure for partners. Host country or third partner collaborators risk legal penalties and reputational harm, discouraging future cooperation. Then there's complication of multilateral cooperation. Other states and international organizations may limit intelligence sharing or cooperation if operations appear rogue or unilateral.
Yeah. All right. So, Khalid, coming to you next on this. How do intelligence agencies prevent their own networks from being infiltrated or corrupt? I mean, you kind of live in like the clandestine capital of the world for this stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that, no offense to Jeff MD, but that the intelligence stuff is kind of incestuous in some elements.
Oh my God, you're not wrong about that. And when you go to Islamabad, there are certain hotels where, if like the Serena Hotel in Islamabad, I'll give you a really good example. I will not sit and have a meeting in the Serena Hotel. Reason why? At the table right there is MI5. At the table over there is FSB. At the table over here is the CIA, and everybody's listening to everybody. So, look,
We like good food.
Yeah.
Huh?
We all like good food.
Of course, you like good food, but you also like to listen to what everybody else is saying.
That's right.
The problem with having intelligence operations or intelligence agencies compromised, it's very easy. I'm going to go backwards to what Jeff was talking about. The NSA has a huge amount of data. The NSA has a huge amount of data that is not shared with the FBI, that is not shared with the CIA, but is passed to MI5, MI6, to BND in Germany, to the Bataclan in France, but that's not given to anyone inside the U.S. intelligence community. That signal information would make a lot of this a lot easier. But it's like Jeff was saying, everybody has their own personal fiefdoms. We have the same problem in Pakistan. When you look at our ISI, and I will be very hesitant on bashing the ISI because I live in this country. Them disappearing somebody is a 2-minute job. The ISI has so many fiefdoms within it that going from one department to another, shh, don't tell him I'm talking to you. Shh, don't tell him I'm talking to you.
Right.
And it's the same thing in every intelligence agency, because you don't want anybody to know who you're talking to. We've worked with foreign intelligence before, and foreign intelligence says the same thing. Listen, if somebody from our agency calls you, you've never spoken to us.
Yeah.
That sharing of data is very important to make sure you don't get compromised. And when intelligence, and Jeff can attest to this, when intelligence agencies work like one intelligence agency rather than fiefdoms, you are more successful in stopping attacks.
Yeah, you find it inside an office where guys who literally sit in cubicles next to each other can't share information. They'll go have coffee every day. They have the same clearances. They're paid, but they have the same boss. But you're working on program A, he's working on program B, and you cannot even mention anything of what you're doing to that person, with that person, and vice versa.
Yeah, appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you. So we're at the halfway point for the main topic, so we've got 2 more segments to go. Just want to quickly mention that if you go to survivaldispatch.news, that's our Substack, and if we're live, which is 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday or Sunday if we need to catch up on something or if there's breaking news, but the video will always appear at the top. You never have to go hunting for the video. So as you can see, here it is. When we're not broadcasting live, that doesn't appear there. And you'll see today's situation report there. When you go into the situation report, if you sign up for a free account, you get our sit reps, you get our weekly watch guide, you get early access to JJ Morris's instructional videos. But all of this, all the way down to my signature that goes with this episode, this is today's sit rep, you get all of that. The paying members who pay $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, which gets them 2.5 months for free, they get enrolled in our Survival Dispatch emergency notification system. So that goes out to our Signal group. It goes out by email, and it now goes out on the POC link radios as well. In addition to that, they get all 37-hour Survival Dispatch Insider emags. We sell them for $9.99, so it's $370 worth of free emags. And they get all the sources that I showed you at the bottom of the sit rep. We list all of our sources there. And last but not least, I think Khalid's probably going to laugh about this. Actually, you know who's going to laugh about it would be Jeff. We never anticipated that our private Signal chat was going to be this big thing. We always thought, well, this will be a good way to get the word out when the shit hits the fan. And Jeff, of course, was on site last week filming Surviving Man. And Khalid works all hours of the day.
You want to know how many unread Signal messages I have?
Yes.
5,898 in one chat room and 202 in another. So over 6,000 unread signals. Drives out for a week.
The second one that Jeff mentioned is our internal to Survival Dispatch, our intel group. It's a small group, but there you go. Many thousands of messages go through there. The intelligence is awesome. So the process is, if you sign up, send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com with your phone number after you install Signal, and do not hide your number. If you hide your number, we can't see you in a search and we can't get you the invite. You can hide your number after that. And if you do sign up, or you've already signed up and you've bought POC radios already, just send an email to me, and we'll make sure that you get the QR code so you can join the SDN's notifications on that. Okay, now that that's aside, let's move on to segment number 3, which is cartels and extremist cells. Essentially the convergence that I already alluded to that happened in the early 1990s. So I'm trying to think of the right word, but when a void exists, something usually tries to fill that void. So if you have a void as far as rule of law is concerned, there's an acronym for it, WROL, without rule of law, somebody will try and fill that. And no doubt the cartels will be one of those somebody's trying to fill it, in addition to their continued human, trafficking, weapon smuggling, narcotics, the whole 9 yards. But what we're seeing right now that we've never seen before is we're seeing a lot of shared infrastructure and cooperation between criminal groups and terrorist groups. So the Hezbollah connection to the Sinaloa cartel, that's been around a long time, but it's spreading like wildfire. And Khalid can speak to that better than I can. Regardless, it's essentially the enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine. So we have all the radical Islamic jihadis under the Islamic Army now. And we have all of the cartels and FTOs like TDA ganging up together to be, number one, very opportunistic, and number two, there's strength in numbers. And like Khalid said, there's a retribution element. So Khalid, I'm actually going to come to you first on this, and then I'll come to Randy and Jeff after that. I'm curious what your thoughts on, because we're so far behind the 8 ball, but what can law enforcement do to try and, tackle and or dismantle these organizations? There's not enough time before 9/11 2.0, is there?
No. Let me take you backwards a little bit.
Okay.
Zelensky gave a speech maybe about 3 weeks ago where he said, in the Ukrainian war, we have shot Uzbeks, Tajiks, Pashtuns, Afghanis. They've all been involved in the Ukraine war. Guess who involved them? The Russians. Russia and the Taliban have a relationship like this. And the Russians took mercenaries from the Taliban, from Al-Qaeda, and put them into their war. They got battlefield training there. The Sinaloan cartel learned how to use drones in the Ukraine war. This is factual. You can look it up.
Yeah.
This is fact. This is all fact. They are now able to use drones for warfare. We kept talking about Pakistan being the place where the terrorists were testing. We have had mortars dropped on villages, on homes, on military posts by the Taliban using drones. We've shown you videos of it as well in past episodes of Survival Dispatch. The training level that they have gotten to now, and the level where the police is, it's like this. Your cartels and your terrorists are here, your police is here. Now, to try and close that gap, you don't have enough time, because the amount of budget that needs to be given to the police departments, the SWAT teams, the training that needs to be given in a span of, and we're talking mid-December when this thing's going to kick off. Let's see, end of September, so October, November, 2.5 months? No. Not unless you take the entire police force off the roads, take policing away from them, and just put them all into training. You cannot get ready for this. Now, a couple of things I've seen in the chat. Number one, a lot of people are talking about Pennsylvania. Sarah had an interview the other day with David Rutherford. Yeah, with David Rutherford, and she brought up Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is in our threat assessment. If you go to command11.com, the U.S. hospital threat assessment updated. Download that. You will see the cities. You will see the locations. You will see where all the immigrants have moved. It will give you a ton of information that you are wondering about right now. Number two, getting ready for this, forget cities. Forget trying to protect your city. Protect your home, your community, your neighborhood. Let everything else be on its own. Handle what you need to handle.
Appreciate that, Khalid. Thank you. Very comprehensive. So moving on to you next, Randy. Let me get my brief pulled back up again. So interesting question, but to me at least, when I put the brief together, is how much do cartels already resemble these terror groups as far as like tactics and strategies concerned? It seems to me that there's been an exchange of information, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, and we have no doubt, because that's what everybody does. Doesn't matter if you're a criminal or not. Interagencies, just like when you're on a team, right? There are different jobs on that team, but all of you cross-train the other folks, right? It's just common sense, and it's what people do. It's how we all get better. We learn from other entities, and I have no doubt. So the similarities would be they both use violence and intimidation, right? All kinds. They both smuggle and do clandestine networks. They both have corruption and co-optation. And, they both use propaganda and information control. They both use territorial control and governance. They both use revenue diversification and transnational reach. And they both use extreme tactics.
Yeah, true story. There's definitely a lot of similarities there. So, Jeff, you can clean up here in segment number 3. Just speculate for me. What would happen if we sent our military into Mexico to knock out cartels? How do you see that playing out if it happened?
Well, it's two big ifs. Well, the first big if is, do we coordinate with Mexico before we do it or not?
Yep. And
if we don't, what's their response to it? Because technically, if we do that, we don't coordinate with them, it's act of war.
Yep.
I mean, you have sent U.S. military forces into Mexico, even if they're going after criminals, but you kill one innocent Mexican national, even if they are criminals, guilty Mexican nationals, it's an act of war. Technically, it's an act of war. And so now you could do it if you coordinate with them, and it's a coordinated military activity like we do with them on counter-narcotics. Our DEA works with the Mexican law enforcement to go after drug cartels all the time. A lot of times their side may be corrupted, and you've got to pick and choose your partners. That's a little different. You've kind of got sanction of the country. Now the response would be, if we do it and it's not sanctioned, I basically tell you what Trump's going to say. He's going to say, well, if you'd handled the problem, we wouldn't have to.
Yep.
But that is not going to fly legally. But we do it all the time. I mean, we blew up those boats off the coast of Venezuela. You know, people say, I violate international law. Yeah, so does drug smuggling. So there you go. I think we've got a president who's like, I'm looking for results. I'm not worried about dotting I's and, you know, and crossing T's. But Mexico is so corrupt. I doubt they're ever, if they do give you permission, it's because they've already won the cartels.
Yes.
So if you want to be effective, it's almost going to have to be unilateral. But then what do you do if you lose a guy and he gets captured?
Yeah, appreciate that, Jeff. Diana, I posted a link just up above to Khalid's website, thecommand11.com, and I took the link from an open web page. I was just browsing his website. So the link works. If you scroll up to the one that says Command 11, and not the one he put with command11.com, but the one that's above that I posted, the link works fine. Just click on it in the chat and it'll take you there. So moving on to the final segment here for our main topic. This is some additional speculation on future scenarios and especially civilian preparedness. So, you know, we've got to anticipate that in the near term of 9/11 2.0, you're looking at all kinds of coordinated attacks on infrastructure, transportation, public gatherings. So think of it this way. All of the CCTAs, the complex coordinated terrorist attacks that Khalid laid out, they're not going to want to take down the grid or communications networks while they're doing that, because they want everybody to know what they're doing. And when they get to the hospital and start broadcasting torture videos, they want everybody to know about that as well. So you're probably looking at, you know, somewhere 48, 72 hours before the lights go off. And you have groups like Volt Typhoon, which is a CCP hacking group that works very closely with the North Koreans and the Iranians. They have access to all of our infrastructure. It's not even up for question. Our own government has admitted it. That's when they log on for the cyber attacks, start turning lights off, electricity off. When the electricity goes off, there's no pumps at the water, municipal water supplies. So now you're not getting water either. There's no data communications. We've got a comms video coming out on Thursday. Dr. Michael Fabian and I did. And it's very comprehensive. And I'm going to do an article on it the same day, because there's so many ways to basically have backup comms, but some of them are pretty fragile. So it's comes right after food, water, shelter, and guns. The very next thing is communications. And to do it properly, you have to invest time and money, and the time, because a lot of it's learning curve. You have to learn this stuff to get through it. So with that being said, what I want to get into for the last segment here with the panel is, how can communities prepare for these cascading, complex, coordinated terrorist attacks? Because it's not over. The fat lady's not even getting warmed up. In other words, it just keeps going and going and going. Hence the word cascading. So Khalid, I'm going to come to you first. Pardon me. Imagine that 3 years from now, and 9/11 2.0 has already happened, and we've got ongoing terrorist attacks. How do people possibly prepare for that, Khalid?
You can't. I mean, we went through it from 2007 until 2016 here in Pakistan, where there were daily across the country, there was 5, 6, 7, 8 suicide blasts. And the suicide blast could be a single person. It could be a car. It could be a water tanker. We didn't know when the next blast was going to happen. We literally, I've said this in the past as well, we would leave the house in the morning praying we'd come home alive in the evening. That's how bad it was here. And you have to understand, here we didn't see cyber attacks. We only saw the bomb blasts. When you start putting all these pieces together and start saying, okay, they can do this, they can do this, they can do this, they can literally shut down the entire United States in a matter of maybe a week, 10 days at the most. And recovering from that for America is much harder than you'd ever think. There's a video on our Substack on our X and on our website of what a civil war would look like in the U.S. And they gave 4 very clear scenarios, and they covered this in the scenarios. And they said it very clearly in the video as well, that once this happens, recovery, you are talking years, not months, not weeks, years to recover from it.
Yeah, and you couldn't have said that better. The power grid's a good example. So for the past 3 decades, every single year, somebody introduces a bill to harden and protect our infrastructure as far as our grids are concerned. We have 3 of them, east, west, and Texas. And every year it's been voted down. Nobody's been willing to pony up about $5 billion to harden our power grid. So we're a first world country with a third world power grid, number one. Number two, the LPTs, which are large power transformers, they're 48 to 60 months out. So when you take out substations with LPTs, nobody's turning the lights on quickly. We don't stock them. We don't have them sitting on the shelf or anything like that. And these are typically the ones that they'll come ashore on a large boat. A crane picks it up, sets it on a rail car. The rail line goes to the location of the substation, and a crane there picks it off that and puts it in place, right? Those pieces of infrastructure are not going to come easily, number one. Number two, most of our power transmission lines in America are 200,000 volts. It would take nothing to override the safety and run 700 kV through 200 kV lines, because we do have some 700 kV. You would set everything on fire from one end to the other. So it gets even worse. I don't have any good news on the power grid for people. We have over 55,000 substations in the country. There are 3 per grid, 3 for the east, 3 for the west, 3 for Texas. If you take those 9 power stations out, or substations, pardon me, which are well known to the terrorists, you knock out power to 95% of America. The only people who are left with power, either they've set themselves up with off-grid, or it's somebody who lives between the power generation plant and the first transformer. So it's absolutely crippling stuff. And I won't take us too deep down that rabbit hole. But next question for you, Randy, is there any way that our cities can prepare? And I don't think we have enough time to make this happen for 9/11 2.0, but going beyond that, how can cities in particular prepare without causing mass panic in people?
Well, I think you're right. Obviously, it's way too late for this thing, but there will be life after. And so I would say, one, they need to plan and coordinate quietly, but maybe some visibly, right? They could develop multi-agency continuity and emergency plans. We have some of that, but they could build that all the way out. They could conduct tabletop and full-scale exercises. They could build resilient critical infrastructure, which we just talked about, and no one's wanting to do. But if we did that, as I've mentioned many times, and I just mentioned it last week because I saw another one. There's another headline that the CIA, and we've been watching it for 2 years, says that there's going to be a major attack on the American power grid. But yet no one is doing anything about it, including strengthened detection and monitoring, and having situational awareness. They can predefine phased public messaging and trusted spokespeople. We could promote community preparedness without fear mongering, which is kind of hard to do. And certainly now it's, again, that would be after. They can protect and expand communication channels, which we haven't done. They could prioritize public safety, and we haven't done that either. Manage expectations and provide visible services. They could train frontline responders in crowd psychology and de-escalation. There could be counter misinformation proactively. And then they could maintain legal, ethical, and civil liberties. And then you could plan for vulnerable populations. And we all certainly have those. We know seniors and all of our, what do you call them, exceptional families. You have, and then they could do some after action learning and visibility count, an AAR, just like we do in the military. That everything we do, we do an after action review. We not only did a plan beforehand, but then we did an after action review to discuss what went right, what went wrong, and how to fix that the next time.
Yeah, AR is definitely important. So, Jeff, before I come to Jeff, pardon me, can you answer the question on the screen, Khalid?
There is a concern of ISIS and Al Qaeda reaching out to street and prison gangs. You have to understand that your prison gangs, your prisons are the one place where the amount of conversion to Islam and to radical Islam specifically is going on. So those people are coming out of prison indoctrinated already. So getting them into the Al Qaeda system, you are talking, it's a simple two-step process. You come out of prison, you come into an Al Qaeda into an Al Qaeda cell. In terms of the weapons coming from Afghanistan, $1 billion. That much I can confirm for you. $1 billion of weapons that were left behind in Afghanistan have come into the U.S. already. But the weapons are not your focus. What you need to look at is the tactical training centers that were left in Afghanistan. You have proper shoot houses in Afghanistan where these guys have trained at. Giving them that ability. Look, when we first dealt with the Taliban, they were dealing with mud huts. Now they have CIA proper shoot houses that they have learned how to clear a house. And they've been taught by special operators that taught the Afghani army. Those Afghani army people became traitors to their own country. They joined the Taliban and trained the Taliban. Then you had the Russians come in and train them. You had the Chinese come in and train them. Then they went to Russia and fought against Ukraine. So they are battle hardened. They have been to war. They've seen it. They understand it. Now they're in the U.S. ready to fight.
Yeah, no good news anywhere, is there? So, last question goes to you, Jeff. And again, I accept the fact that we're too late to really react to this stuff before 9/11 2.0 kicks off. But going forward, what technologies do you think should be prioritized for detecting threats early as possible?
Well, I think when it comes to the power grid, I think what you need to do is have, of course, you need to harden it, and especially the SCADA systems and electronic control systems. But they also need to be monitored. So when there are probing attacks, if they're starting to go after a power company or a power system of some sort, that people recognize it and then alert others to the probing attack so they can be ready to defend. And the other thing I think we need to try to look at is preparing to rapidly decouple our power grid. All of our power grids, you've seen there's 3 major power grids in the United States, and they're all linked. And the idea is that if there's a generation interruption in one city or one region, the other region can ramp up power and they can draw from the other to keep the grid stable. But if there's a coordinated attack, all that means is they're all going to fall like dominoes, and you're going to lose a huge section instead of a small one. And I think it's important to be able to decouple so that, okay, they attack Atlanta. Okay, sorry, Atlanta, we're going to decouple from the grid so that only Atlanta goes dark and the rest of Georgia keeps the lights on instead of having the whole place go down. Then you can go back and say, okay, we'll fix Atlanta later, because that coupling, that power sharing, is intended to keep the lights on under normal circumstances. People don't look at it as how it can be a detriment to us under an attack, because normally when our grid goes down, or it's because of a storm or an accident or something like that. This is going to be on purpose. They're trying to do it.
Yeah, it's a scary proposition, depending on whose numbers you want to believe. I've seen simulations that say anywhere from 3 to 6 months, 90% of America's dead. They don't have potable water. They don't have their medications. People who are diabetic need insulin are amongst the first to go. There's not medicine for simple things because everything just runs out, right? All of the stuff today is in JIT, supply chains, just in time, which is precarious. So question for each of you, question for the audiences as well. So we essentially covered 4 segments, 4 big things today. And I want to know what the biggest one was, the most important one was to each of you on the panel, but I also want to know in the audience as well. So the first one is Khalid covered how complex coordinated terrorist attacks are different from traditional attacks. If that was the thing you got the most out of for this video, put a 1 in the live chat. The next one is the expanded role that intel groups will have to have, and they will have in these, call it irregular, almost like unseen war that'll be happening. That's number 2. The third one, the merging of cartels and terrorist networks. And number 4, trying to prepare communities for this long war, this ongoing conflict that'll go on forever. So number 1, CCTAs differ from traditional terrorism. If that was the big thing you got, put a 1. Number 2, intelligence agencies, extended roles, secret roles, taking on greater importance. Number 3, merging cartels and extremist terrorist networks. And number 4, prepping communities for shadow war reality. So Clete, I'm coming to you first. Pick one of the 4, but also final comments on tonight's topic.
Well, I'm gonna approach this in a different way. What you are gonna see in the U.S. is what is called perfect asymmetric warfare. Not only are you going to have ground attacks, you are going to have propaganda running at the same time. You are going to have drones involved. You are going to have power grids taken down. This is what asymmetric warfare is. This is 5th generation warfare. It's what we call at Command 11 cognitive warfare, where they get inside your head and scare you to the point where you don't even want to leave your home. For me, because we've lived through it here in Pakistan, it is something that's very difficult to come back from. I can tell you in this country alone, 95% of the country is on some kind of an antidepressive.
Wow.
Because of what's gone on in the country. I'm not kidding. And I'm talking 50 mg, 100 mg antidepressives, where they cannot function without them. Because we have literally seen in shopping malls, bomb blasts happen and you see parts of bodies. And when you're walking out that shopping mall, you see those parts. And you don't come back from that. Not as a normal human being, you don't come back from that.
Yeah, serious PTSD for sure. I appreciate that. So Randy, coming to you next, just so everybody in the audience knows, because I'm seeing a lot of 1s and 4s on different platforms. Number 1, CCTAs differing from traditional terrorism. Number 2, intelligence agencies, expanded roles. Number 3, merging of cartel and extremist terrorist groups. And number 4, prepping communities for the future realities in this long war.
Well, I'm from Texas and I live in Texas. So it's going to be the number 3 with the cartels and the extremists have now partnered. Why? Because even after this attack is long gone, the cartels are still going to be in Mexico. Some of them may be killed off, but it's going to be just like when Pablo was killed, right? Somebody else is going to step up. So the cartels are not going away. And so we will have to deal with them. And then the fact that they've now merged with actual terrorists, as we mentioned earlier, it wasn't just the terrorists that learned from the cartels. The cartels have learned also from the terrorists. So I think that's going to be a problem that we're going to have to deal with for a very, very long time. So to me, that, we already know about the complex, terrorist attack. And yes, that is a very serious deal. And as Jeff pointed out, we did have September 11th, which kind of gave us a little warm up, but that is nothing compared to what this is going to be. So it's all relevant. But to me, being in Texas, I've got to worry about the cartels. And then even if this thing kicks off, I got to worry about coming from 2 different directions, from wherever the terrorists are, and then from south where the cartels will come. Because, Mexico's always wanted a piece of Texas back since we took it from them. And California. So, I have no doubt we will see something from them as well. And my final thoughts is, as Khalid said, it's not something you're ever going to get used to. These things you don't get used to. And if you are prepared or you're not prepared, yes, that matters. But at the end of the day, both of you have to survive it. There is no getting used to it. You're either going to survive it or you're not. And that's going to be the difference.
Yep. Thanks, Randy. So Jeff, 1, 2, 3, or 4 and final thoughts.
I'm going with 1 just because I think the scale people can't really comprehend the scale of what would be happening. And I think the best way to do it, to the best analogy be if 9/11 and COVID had a baby. 9/11, you look at what it did to the country for months. I mean, it did long damage, but within a week, planes were flying. Their food was never left the grocery shelves, that kind of thing. But then you look at COVID. COVID itself wasn't bad, but the effects lingered for like 2 years. People wore masks, kids weren't in school, etc. Now combine those two.
Yeah. And what an ugly baby that is.
Yeah.
What was that?
I said, what an ugly baby that is.
Yeah, that's definitely an ugly baby. So I think that's what you're looking at. And the cartels coming up and all that, nature abhors a vacuum. And if there's a vacuum anywhere, someone's going to.
That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it, Jeff. So that's the end of the main topic. We got a few things to look after here at the end. And this is quickly becoming my favorite part of our broadcast. This is the Carnival Hero of the Day. Here we go. I'm telling you, I feel like it's Monday Night Football and I'm reporting on Monday Night Football. I love that shit. Anyway,
now,
yeah. So this is a pretty amazing story from West North Carolina. So grading company owner Jake Jarvis confirms he and his 9-year-old daughter have now worked 365 days for free rebuilding roads, bridges, and homes in Western North Carolina. They've refused to accept a penny from any of the victims they have helped. Heroes, 53-second video.
Absolutely.
I can't sleep at home when the wind and the rain's coming down because I'm worried about people I've helped.
Having a support system makes a difference, though.
Sometimes it'll get a little sad, but I just love working with Daddy.
Jarvis's 9-year-old daughter, Maya, is by his side just about every day, and the many families he helps.
It was sad, but I got to meet a lot of people, and a lot of them are very sweet.
Their impact goes beyond physical repairs.
It's hard for me to talk about Jake. It really is. I mean, I can't tell you what he means to us. And he's family now.
Jarvis says he's just helping neighbors in the best way he knows how and is committed to continuing this work.
I feel like this is a calling and I'm supposed to be doing this. We're not even close, I mean, we're just scratched the top. And I figure this will probably go on for years.
That's an amazing story. Definitely.
Just gave me chill bumps, man.
Yeah, so definitely deserving of the Carnival Hero of the Day.
Absolutely.
So the next one up here for the reader submitted story of the day. This is from Kim from our private Signal chat. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain it in a second. This is brutal. Like, this is the stuff that sets my watch off, saying I have an elevated heart rate, blood pressure, all that sort of stuff. Amir Zar, adjunct professor at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law, laughed when asked, do you condemn October 7th? The entire ArabCon audience laughed at October 7th. Tells you everything you need to know. 1 minute, 2 seconds.
We sometimes get uncomfortable talking about October 7th, and as Americans. But how much of that is sort of directly from the, I guess, magnitude of that it just created this like question asking more than anything ever else has before. And, are you seeing your colleagues feeling more empowered to say things, probably because of your steadfastness over all these years? And then finally, do you condemn October 7th?
I condemn Israel and the United States and all oppressions and imperial wars.
That's what I'm talking about.
Very good. That was an easy answer. And I never ever condemn Palestinian resistance and anyone resistance around the world. Those who are here and who also are around the world, write it up.
That's right.
Okay, so anyway, move on to the next question.
Holy shit, we've got cancer.
That's like blaming the rape victim.
Yeah.
Two double taps takes care of that.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. I mean, I want to bring this up because Stu's running this He covered the Palestinian conference that went on in Detroit. This is going on in Hamtramck, Michigan, Arab Con. He's been posting videos throughout the day of the speeches and the conversations that have been going on. It is absolutely disgusting. The level of pretend victimization that these people are talking, it is absolutely disgusting. You are not even talking about what the Hamas organization did to cause this. And my problem is you have so many groups now because of Qatar pumping money into the US, into the universities, supporting Hamas, supporting the Palestinian cause, which there's nothing wrong with supporting the Palestinian cause, but support the Palestinian people, not Hamas. Because Hamas is the problem. That is the virus, that is the cancer that needs to be cut out. Once that's cut out, there's peace everywhere.
Yeah, nobody wants to see innocent people get killed. But this is like the Nazis complaining that we were bombing their cities in 1945 after they had waged war for 6 years. A war that they started.
And bombed other country cities.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That just, yeah, my watch is on mute now because it's going off. But anyway, let's move on before I get myself in trouble and get another strike for our channel. So moving on to the conflicted question, conflictedthegame.com. So one of your friends has been shot in battle and a field medic told you he will be paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of his life. This is a post-apocalyptic world you're living in, and your friend asks you to please have mercy on him and put him out of his misery. His wife and kids have already died, and all he wants to do is be with them instead of living in a world as unforgiving as this. Would you have mercy on your friend and kill him, or would you let him go, let him live? Why? Jeff MD, you've been away for a week. You get it first.
I'll just put myself in his position. Would I want to live? My family's dead, everybody's gone. Where I want to live, paralyzed from the neck down. Not to say people like that can't have full lives, but in that situation, no. I would want him to put me out of my misery, and I would like to think I'd have the strength to do it for him as well.
Yeah, good answer, Khalid.
Yeah, you're helping him. You have to look at this from the point of a euthanization. He doesn't have any family left. The rest of his life is gonna be absolute hell. He's gonna be dependent on people, and there's nobody for him to depend on. The easiest thing is to let him die.
Yeah, I agree. Randy?
Well, as I said, this is the easiest question we've ever had to answer. Now, maybe not as easy to actually do.
Right.
But yes, someone that has been paralyzed from the neck down, they can have a good life in a normal, thriving society, right? Not in apocalyptic after everything's over. I mean, there would be no way to really support this guy and to keep him alive anyway, and if he's your friend and you care about him, his family's already gone, and now he's paralyzed to the point he's just going to sit there and die in a horrible way anyway. So I think, sparing him that, as tough as it would be, I would have mercy on him. And certainly since he asked me to do it, that makes it even easier.
Yeah, I agree with all three of you, so I won't beat that dead horse, pardon the pun. I want to quickly mention our premier sponsor, Carnival. I see Randy's got a Carnival hat on. They released their single serving options this weekend, and they sold out. So they're working around the clock right now to replenish their stock. People have been asking for this. So as you can see in the picture, these are the single serve for the beef, but you can get single serve for chicken and pork as well. And that's 12 packs, by the way. So you get 12 individual servings in one box for $79. This style of bag here, 6 servings, but they're not in single serves. 6 ounces, freeze dried, makes 1.5 pounds of uncooked raw steak. No antibiotics, no histamines, no mRNA, 100% grass finished, 100% American. Even the bags and the O2 observers are American. Everybody here who's had it, and Khalid has some on the way to him as well, will tell you.
Yes.
The concept is great for prepping until you taste it. It's so good. So now Mike Glover's in the doghouse with me because our wives keep looking at the pantry going, what happened to the carnival? We're like, something happened to it, man. Kind of like Spicoli. But
somebody came in here and got it.
Yeah, somebody ate it. I mean, I don't know. The carnival fairy came in the middle of the night and ate it, but it's so convenient and such high quality. Can't say enough good things. We don't get a commission from Carnival. They pay us a flat monthly stipend to help us offset our expenses. We appreciate it tremendously as far as their support for our channel is concerned, because if we didn't have support from them and from our Guardian members, we couldn't work the hours that we work and bring y'all truthful news at the end of the day. So carnival.com, code EATMEAT gets you 10% off any order over $99, free shipping as well. If you're a proud American and you want the ultimate American whole food, go to carnival.com, get hooked up with them. The other piece of house cleaning, we're going to run out of these POC links pretty darn soon. And if you're looking for something to supplement your SHTF emergency comms, these are a really good way to go. So it's like a GMRS FRS radio, but it also does LTE, long-term evolution. And again, it's a good way to supplement your stuff. But here's what I will say is that if you buy these right now for $399, that's a whole heck of a lot better than $1,140, which is where it's going shortly. Plus, you don't have to pay for the SIM card ever. Whereas when they get more expensive, it'll be $29 to $65 a month. So if you use the link down below in the description or in today's sit rep, and you order any radios, they come in increments of 2 and then go up from there. Send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com if you're a Guardian, and you will get access to our POC link group as well. So when we activate the emergency notification system, it'll go to our signal chat, it'll go to the POC radios, it'll go to your email, lots of coverage. Paying members $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, just as important as our sponsors. Couldn't do this without y'all. Go to survivaldispatch.news, sign up for a free account. You'll get our daily sit reps. You'll get weekly watch guides. You'll get JJ Morris's educational videos. If you decide to help support our efforts, which we appreciate very, very much, you'll also get enrolled Survival Dispatch emergency notification system. You'll get an invite to our crazy busy signal chat. Back to the SDNs, we will put you in the group for the POC radios. You get all 37 Survival Dispatch Insider eMags, sell for $10 a piece, $370 for free there. You get the sources for our sit reps, and that's it. So Khalid and S2 will be back tomorrow night, the usual time, 7 p.m. And that will be for their weekly sit rep situation reports. They'll be covering a whole bunch of information. The rest of us will be back on Wednesday night with the next episode in our long war series. And we're titling it Domestic Refugees. So the displacement of Americans, millions of Americans fleeing the cities, seeking safety, which in turn overwhelms the rural areas and small towns. It'll be pretty chaotic. I would almost compare it to the initial episodes of The Walking Dead minus the zombies and people trying to bite you. But with that being said, we've got a closing video tonight, which is a promo for our Guardians program. So you can get all the details there. But other than that, Khalid and S2 will be back tomorrow night. The rest of us back Wednesday night. Between now and then, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
God bless America.
Enjoy the closing video. The world is getting more dangerous and unpredictable every day. Your family's safety depends on how prepared you are. For just $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year with 2.5 months free, Survival Dispatch Guardian membership gives you powerful tools and resources to stay ready. When you join, you're automatically enrolled in the Survival Dispatch emergency notification system, and you'll get critical alerts fast. You'll also get an invite to our private high-traffic signal chat where members and experts share breaking intel. Guardians receive all 37 of our Survival Dispatch Insider e-magazines, normally $9.99 each, a $370 value, plus early access to our exclusive instructional videos before they go public. Join thousands of like-minded Americans who refuse to be caught off guard. Become a Survival Dispatch Guardian today at www.survivaldispatch.news/subscribe.